County Republican Central Committee. We are glad to have this be number 7 of 7. I am going to be asking the questions and timing the meeting. I am the vice chair of the Republican Party, and our goal of the Republican Party is to get Republicans elected, because we believe that the platform of the Republican Party is America. It's what we stand for as a republic and as freedom-loving, liberty-loving people. So I am going to let Chairman Whistle of the party do an introduction, and then we will get going. I'll tell you real quick, we're going to do probably 3.5 minutes intro for each of the candidates, and then we will ask questions. If there's no one to debate, we will give them 3 minutes to answer the question and expound however they would like, and we'll take it as it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Amy Mitchell. I want to thank you. Lillian and I just returned from a 3-week vacation in the Mediterranean. We have never cruised in our life, and we have become cruisers. We actually had a purpose for this. May 22nd was our 44th wedding anniversary. Now, we have a bifurcated family. She had 2 boys from her first marriage. We had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and then our youngest is Dominic, a grandson we adopted. So we took our oldest kid, Mark and Giona, had their wedding anniversary May 25th, and it was their 40th. And we brought her parents, Ida and Julian Cordova, they're on year 57. So the whole purpose of this was to celebrate long-lasting relationships, and I kidded at the time, if we make it through the 2-week cruise and are still together, which we are, it's okay. Either way, we'd be divorced, right? But I wanted to inspire you a little bit, because one of the things that I wanted to impress upon you is we are here to support Republicans and Republicans only. We've had ever-evolving change in this party, and let me give you some perspective. My first day at work in the Park County Assessor's Office was June 18th, 1979. The second day, June 19th, it snowed. I thought I had moved to the wrong end of the world, okay? But my perspective is I was an elected official 6 weeks after my 24th birthday in 1980. So I've been associated with this party as an elected official and as an individual since that time. I've seen a little bit. I've seen the fact that our party has ebbed and flowed with good things and bad things. But what I would like to tell you is, in about the last 2.5 to 3 years, we've taken this party out of the hands of the people designing it for their self-aggrandizement and their benefit, not to the benefit of the people. That culture change is hard and takes a lot of time. But I want to tell you the reason that we're here today is to thank these people who have stepped up to take the chance, if you will, the opportunity to run for public office and to lead their office for the next 4 years. Now, we have some good incumbents. We have unopposed in the primaries, but these are the 3 people that are opposed in the primary. Where are the other 3? You got a sheriff candidate, you got a sitting assessor, and a person running for commissioner. Who's come to one of these?
One out of 7.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't stand in front of a candidate forum, you can't do that job. It's impossible. And if you don't have the respect to go to your voters and let them ask you questions one-on-one or in this forum, you do not deserve to get, they do not deserve to get your vote. That's simple. The people that do the work go through the good and the bad. And I'm here to tell you I'm proud of all of our slate of candidates. I thank those that are in office today, but I can tell you, if you want the status quo versus the change agents, that's your choice. That's the freedom this country offers. And I want to give a little plug for the one book I got read on my cruise, Brett Baer's The Case for America's 250th. The reason we have existed for 250 because this country is based on freedom. When you look at the founders and the King of England, they had a Unitarian voice. They came up with an idea of not a Unitarian voice, but individual right, individual freedom, not given to you by a king, not given to you by the government, but given to you by God Almighty. Those natural individual rights. That trumps any government. And Bear puts a great example after example after example. I can't recommend this book enough, of why we have survived for 250 years. Has it been easy? No. Is government nice, clean, and neat? No. Do we need to have disagreements? Yes. You have the freedom to disagree with your government, and if you don't break the law, not end up in jail. You have the right to think different than your neighbor. You have the right to think different than the government does. And you have the right to express that freely with the First Amendment. So we are here as individuals and hopefully interested voters to learn who are the best people that will represent character, ethics, doing the right thing for the people, and being cognizant of the fiscal constraints that we have is reality in running the government. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have an income problem, we have a spending problem. Park County, State of Colorado, federal government. We have tried to rein in overspending in the county in the last year and a half, and I think we've been successful in changing the direction of the people who wanted the benefit to them in the government and not the folks who were receiving the services. So I want to thank these three individuals. I want to thank Amy for carrying the ball while we were gone. I can tell you that we went to the birthplace of representative democracy. We hit Greece, we hit Barcelona, we hit all the Mediterranean islands mostly, and we ended in Rome. A week ago tomorrow, we were at St. Peter's Square, hearing the Pope. Never felt so close to God in my life, ever. And by God, we will have the right choices. So with that, thank you for attending, thank you for being here, and thank you for running.
All right, thank you, Chairman Whistle. All right, I'm collecting more cards here, thank you. First, Mel extends her apologies. She was tied up this morning and really wanted to be here, but felt it was best for the ailment she's suffering to not share it. And I'm sure you will all be appreciative of that. Amy Flint, don't know, but she has been to, they both have been to every forum. And so they have done really well as incumbents and having no one opposing her, at least in the primary. I think there's some paper candidates on the Democratic side, but we won't even go there. So, and David Kentz, he's been to all two, and I think he's on a international Boy Scout troop trying to keep young men in line, and it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful trip. So anyway, I'm going to give each of the candidates 4 minutes. Yeah, 4 minutes to do their opening, just because we do not have any debating going on today, but we are going to have definitely free discussion. So if you would all stand for the invocation and the pledge, we'll get this thing rolling. Dear Lord God, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this great nation called United States of America. We thank you for your guidance in the founding of our country. We thank you for the state of Colorado and this amazing place that we share with all the people who live here. We acknowledge the 250th of the United States and 150th of Colorado, and thank you for the longevity, and pray that you sustain our republic for another 250 years. We lift up all who live in this county. We lift up the candidates. May you speak through them and give them good words. And we thank for all of our public servants in Park County, in Colorado, the United States. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty liberty, and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, I guess we'll do our usual and we'll start on that stand. We'll start at this end and go down,
I'm not gonna sit down. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here and spending this Saturday with us. It's a beautiful day, and I do appreciate everyone who came today just to listen to us and what we have to say. My name is Ahmed Susik, and I'm running for your sheriff this year. A little bit about myself. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna kind of follow in Chairman's footsteps. As you know, and many of you might not know, I came to this country 26 years ago. I came from the war-torn country, and I became American citizen. And I always say in my bio that I am an American by choice. With the 250 years anniversary, I can tell you, I'm going to quote one of, in my opinion, greatest president in the United States, Ronald Reagan. He received a letter from one of the immigrants, and I'm going to quote it. This is what the letter says. You can go live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American. So when I say I'm an American by choice, that's what I mean. This country has given me everything. My lovely wife, Karen, and I, we moved to Park County in 2012. We have 3 boys that we raised here in this area of South Park. They all graduated from South Park High School, and that's why I'm a proud parent of Burroughs. You know, my boys played basketball, they played baseball, they went to track. What a great community. What I mostly enjoyed was what I call it Friday night lights. So we used to go to the basketball games, we used to go to the baseball games. My kids were heavily involved in a 4-H program here. So our property had everything on it. We had chickens, we had goats, we had hogs, you name it, we raised everything. My boys, I'm very proud of them. They all graduated. Our middle son just received a master's degree in health administration from ASU in Arizona. At age 22, he's an adjunct professor at Arizona State University. My oldest, he went down to Springs to the college to finish his degree in accounting and business management. Got bored out of that and says, you know, I'm going to try something else. He's running his own business and he works for the Safelite at age 23. And our youngest, he is here in Park County and currently works for the development services in Park County here. Like I said, very proud of my family, very proud of my partner in my life, my wife. We're going to be celebrating 25 years of marriage coming this October. So I learned that's a silver one, so I have to do something really extraordinary. So a little bit about myself when it comes to the professional career. I've been a cop for the last 24 years. I started down in Denver area, moved to the mountains in 2005. I worked myself through the ranks. I'm a firm believer that if you want to work here and you want to succeed in this country, there's opportunity for everyone. Look at myself. You can work here. This is the only country in the world where you can work 24/7 to provide for your family. I do appreciate that. So I worked myself from the rank of the police officer, field training officer, sergeant. I was the chief for 5 years. So I built the Blue River Police Department from ground up. That was the greatest experience that I ever had. Looking at a big agency and everybody else, you come to a finished product. So you already have your administration, you have your records, you have a command staff, and they can do your operation, whether it's a patrol operations or jail operation. I didn't have that. So I had to learn every aspect of law enforcement. So I was administrator, I was a record keeper, and I trained people. So from there, I played with the idea I'm going to retire one day. So my wife and I took a long vacation, and after 2 weeks on vacation, I started waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, my internal clock didn't work the way I wanted to. And finally I said, after 2 weeks, we're changing our flight tickets. We're going back. I'm going back to work. And she couldn't believe it. She's still mad at me. So I reached to Summit County Sheriff's Office. I've known their sheriff now over 20 years. Some of those people I have trained throughout my career. I'm instructor in every field you can imagine. And ever since then, I've been operational sergeant for the Summit County Sheriff's Office. Still in the field, still work the best job that I ever had. And that's being a police officer. Thank you.
And Matt was on a roll, so I gave him an extra minute, so I'm gonna give the other two candidates 5 minutes also. So, Wally.
Excellent, all right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Wally Well, running for commissioner in District 3. I'm going to talk about the 3 planks that I have in my process for this county government. Number 1 is limited government. We have enough government. Unless the rules and regulations call for something, maybe a hydrologist with the reservoir coming in, something like that, that's okay. But I'm not a big fan of government. Second is personal responsibility. And you folks here are personal responsibility on steroids. As Ahmed said, this is Saturday afternoon, lots of things going on, lots of places we might rather be, but thank you so much for being here and taking that personal responsibility to find out who we are. It's been a little rough. I haven't had an opponent to go back and forth with, but we do what we have to do. It's all about priorities. And you guys are my priorities, and that's why I am here today. And lastly, it's taxes. I am not a big fan of taxes. We do have some spending issues in the county that I think we can take care of. Maybe claw some money back, find some money, and make things work. And that certainly isn't the position of my opponent. She talks about a 1% across the board tax hike. She talks about 1, maybe 2 mill levy increases. And if you're a business owner, man, that's huge for you guys. It hits business owners much harder than it does an individual. So that's something I'm also not in favor of. And she wants to do away with Tabor. She wants to de-Bruce Tabor. She wants to take away any chance that you have of getting a refund should the government overcharge us in taxes. Not to mention that opens up the lid to just keep adding more taxes, taking more money. You know, the life that you exchange for the money you make is yours. It's not mine. It's nobody up here. It's not the Republican Party, and it darn sure doesn't belong to the Democrats, which sometimes makes me think what my opponent is. She's been a Republican for about a year and a half. I've been a Republican for 50 years. I believe in the Republican Party, as David said. The issues that he brought up are near and dear to my heart. We are a republic. We are not a democracy. You know, England changes chancellors and people like you changing socks. Anytime somebody's upset, they vote for a change. Nothing ever gets done. I want to move on to something that is really, really serious to me, and that's the land use regulations that everybody in this room has to follow, including us up here. And unfortunately, my opponent does not follow that situation. I don't know why she hasn't gotten the proper permit or license or whatever she needs. We have to do that. If I want to drill a well, if I want to change the footprint of my home, I have to get a permit, a license to make it happen. There's probably 2 reasons why she hasn't done it. Number 1, she doesn't want to. Number 2, she's ignorant in the process and doesn't know how to do it. Neither one of those excuses are acceptable for somebody who wants to be a commissioner. And I want to be your commissioner. And I understand those processes. And just because she doesn't hear back from the county, that's not an excuse. You go down to the county, you get in front of those people and you tell them, I need this, I want this, I've got to have it. That's how we run the business in this county. And that's how I will run the business. I want to talk a little bit about the 15 boards that we have in the county. Everything from developmental services to environmental. We even have a tourism board. And we also have an equestrian board in Berlin, down in Bailey. Those 15 boards are critical for we commissioners to work with them to ensure that, you know, Park County progresses in the proper fashion at the proper time with all the right rules and regulations. And I was asked 2 years ago to join the Central Colorado Water Conservancy District Board. Very proud of that. My geologic experience, my water experience, and my real estate experience has been a great boon to that group of people. And about 10 months ago, they asked me to step into the vice president's role to be more proactive in furthering the water situation that we have, and it's a situation we've got going right now. My sister company that Dave's with, the Haas Group, we take care of our water, we covet our water, we purchase water, we don't sell water, we'll rent it to you, but you gotta give it back. And for those reasons, that's why I believe I should be the next candidate for Commissioner, District 3, Park County. Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming and spending your Saturday morning with us. I know it's a good sacrifice. I've been a Republican my entire life, and I think it's important for the Republican Party to continue. We have I believe that the Republican Party generally is a strong party, morally, ethically, and I believe in being an ethical and truthful person. I have a degree in accounting. I'm a realtor up here in Park County. I've been one for 12 years. I have managed budgets for two major, Hanford and Los Alamos. I'm sure you've heard of at least Los Alamos Labs. We did the bid for them for telecommunications. So I've been in that process. I've been an auditor for several years for banks and also for US West. That US West was the baby bells when it was split off in the early 80s. And I was an auditor for them as well. I've been a site supervisor of 7-Elevens and strip malls and know how the building process works. I'm very familiar with that. As an assessor, you go out and you appraise the buildings for what they are and the land that they're sitting on, along with your house and agricultural, farming, etc. I'm not as familiar with appraising farms or agriculture, but I do know what goes into building a commercial building. I also feel like I'm the best candidate for this job for various other reasons. I am very friendly, very nice. This is stressing me out because I'm not used to big groups. Math and data and that type of thing is easy for me. But if you want to come talk to me one-on-one, that's easy for me. I enjoy that. I've been asked to step up to be supervisors in various positions that I've been in, and due to life circumstances, I didn't take them up on that. But I am a good leader. I am a good supervisor. And I believe in making my employees happy and want to come to work. My opponent has lost 270% of her employees have left in the last 7.5 years, which equates to 30% per year. And I've talked to several of those employees, and they haven't left because they needed more money. They've left because she has made their lives miserable. And that is not something that I believe should ever happen. I've also talked to other people who have gone into her office and have made their lives miserable and have not helped them in the process that they need. I believe in doing taxes fairly and equitably. I don't believe in being biased. I don't believe in giving my friends a benefit and my enemies, so to speak, disadvantaged by raising their taxes and things like that. It has to be equitable. I also believe in following the Colorado statute. According to the statute, you need to have your employees get their first license after employment. She has one person in her entire staff of about 10 that actually has fulfilled their requirement and gotten an appraisal license. So she hires people that spends your tax money in her department, hiring contractors to go out and do the appraisals that she has no one that can do them in the office. So she's spending more than she needs to in her office. I believe in staying within my budget, and making sure that my employees get the education they need. It's easy. You just go over the hill into Summit, and they have classes over there. They don't have to drive far. They don't have to spend money to do that. But I believe in doing that. I believe that even though I have not been in an assessor's office, and people have said that I'm not an assessor, neither was my opponent when she got the job. So I believe in doing the hard work, learning the Colorado tax code, and also becoming an ad valorem appraiser within the first 2 years. I would love to get your vote. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear them afterwards. As I said, I'm not great at standing up and talking to you all here, but I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much.
I don't know, you did pretty good. You talked for 5 minutes, so I have seen growth.
She has.
Get out of your comfort zone, it's a good thing. It gets more comfortable as you go. I'm gonna ask questions that are for all 3 candidates, because they're real general questions about the county and the role. So we're gonna start with Wally, and then jump over to Met and go this way, so we stir it up a little bit. So for all 3, what do you think your biggest challenge will be in your new role, and what kind of improvements will you make in that role?
Great question. Probably the biggest challenge is going to be a situation that involves our roads. We all know that they're an issue, right? Right now, the money that we get from the roads is a little tenuous. We're not 100% sure how it happens, but basically, we get 80% of our money from the automobiles that are registered, and 20% of that money comes from the center line miles. In other words, roads that go each way with the center line. It doesn't take into account the tens of thousands of vehicles that come up here and abuse our roads from other counties, where their money stays in that county and doesn't translate to being, given to us to help out with the situation that we have. So that's got to be changed down in Denver, in the Golden Dome, in front of all those people. I have every intention of going down there. I don't want to say getting in their faces, but they need to know the situation up here. We have other counties that are in exactly the same position. Saguache County, Chaffee, the same scenario. Lots of roads, not a lot of cars, we don't get a lot of money. And what happens is a lot of that money goes to the Highway Patrol and CDOT. It's taken off the top, so the actual monies that we get are fairly limited. So, without raising taxes, those are the kind of things that I look forward to doing, actually traveling down there. Commissioner Gemmer does that, and he's got some bills in front of those people. I'm not afraid of those guys. They need to know who we are. They need to know what's going on up here, and the inequalities that we're experiencing because of that road situation. I think I'm going to work really well with Amy and Jason, the 2 commissioners. We have a lot of the same ideas. We're gonna look for money, overspent money, and bring it back into the county without raising taxes. Thank you.
So the challenges, too many challenges with the sheriff's office right now. And I based my platform on transparency and accountability. Accountability when it comes as what we do as law enforcement officers to better this community. We have too many issues: recruitment, retention, 24/7 coverage, having jail situation that's been hot topic here since December. So what have we done? How we transitioned to this? I have answers for everything. If you've been to one of my forums before, I address 24/7 coverage. I will create 3 different districts. The deputies will be working 48-hour shifts in those districts. They're gonna be assigned to those districts, so our community knows who their deputies are. Nothing's gonna be changing. They're gonna be there for our community. So they are not distant figures anymore. They're familiar faces. So building the trust with our community is the most important thing. In addition to that, we need to talk about fiscal responsibility. Fiscal responsibility is one of the key issues I'm going to be focusing on. Right now, there's a budget with the Park County Sheriff's Office. I've looked through the budget. There's some issues that I'll be correcting on at day 1. The issues are pay for our deputies. Ladies and gentlemen, recruitment and retention is the hardest thing. We need to increase pay for our deputies, and it's going to be coming from an existing budget. I'm not asking you for more taxes. I live here. I don't want more taxes on the top of the taxes that I'm already paying. What we need to do with that is take existing budget, reallocate the funds to increase the pay for our deputies. In addition to this, we bring deputies here and they stay here maybe a year or 2. With every calculation that we've done, and I work for different departments. So if we bring the deputy straight out of the academy, or we send him through the academy, we sponsor them through the academy, there's already cost associated with that. So we pay about $10,000 for the academy, and then we pay their salary when they're going to the academy. Then they come out of the academy, and traditionally, field training is about 19 weeks. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. You don't never know how they're going to perform once you put that uniform on them. It's different. So if they leave within the first 2 years, we are looking as a community, as a taxpayers, in about $250,000 to $200,000 loss. That goes through the door. They're going down to the Metro Agency, they're going to surrounding counties here. I mean, we're in a pretty tough spot here. Most of the cops that I work on the other side of the Hoosier Pass, they come from here. Those are the cops, they're already trained, they're leaders in their organizations, and I had the privilege to touch their lives at some point in time because I'm instructors in many fields. So, seeing those cops traveling every day over the Hoosier Pass is a loss for us. My job is to make sure they stay here, they work here, and they don't leave us. Thank you.
What was the question? Biggest challenge or what challenge?
What's your biggest challenge, and what improvements are you gonna make?
I think the biggest challenge is, one, I'm not an assessor yet. So that, for me, that would be my biggest challenge, learning everything that I need to learn to do the job. And then also to get to know the 10 employees that would be under me in that department and see how they work and see what they're doing. And then what I would like to do is make sure everybody is getting the training they need and supporting them in that. I believe in being there side by side with every one of those employees and not leaving them stranded if they have a deadline they haven't met and I just walk out the door and say, you gotta get it done. Those are things that I believe in. It's a team. Yes, I'm the leader, yes, I'm the top person, but I'm there to support them and get them the training they need. And in turn, they're gonna love coming to work. They're going to be able to meet with every one of you and say, yeah, I know how to answer that question. Right now, they can't do that, you know? They just go to one person because the staff does not know how to answer those questions. So that's the improvement I want. I want those employees to know everything about where they work, know how to answer all of your questions, and just be there as a support for them. And that's what I think for me. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, well, okay, sorry, lost track there. Okay, this one is for Ahmet. We have a lot of sheriff questions, so you might as well just stand up and we'll fling a couple at you at once. First one is, how will you restructure your command staff and will it save money?
So as of right now, whoever wrote that, that's a good question. As of right now, command staff is structured with a sheriff, undersheriff, lieutenant, captain, and I think 6 or 7 sergeants. So my approach to that is, I'm gonna kick out the middle management out of this. So the sergeant is your first line supervision. Working for the smaller agency, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, those sergeants on the street are the key component to every organization. That's where you're gonna make it or break it. That's the core of your organization. So with introduction of the 3 districts, 48-hour shifts, under all calculation that I made, I only need 3 sergeants. I will have a sheriff, undersheriff, 2 commanders. The 2 commanders are going to be in charge of, one on the jail side, detentions. In addition to the jail side, as a sheriff's office, we have to provide a court security. So they're going to have a court security, and our statutory responsibility is a civil process. So they're going to be in charge of jail, court security, civil process. In addition to that, I'm planning to add additional responsibility, which is professional standards. We do have to have a professional standards. We have to have a strong policy and procedures, which, by the way, I'm going to be posting that online. So if you have any questions, you can go to policy and procedures. It says, jail operation. What do you do in the jail? So every resident in this community is going to have opportunity to look at those policy and procedures. Part of the transparency. The second part, it's going to be operational commander. They're going to be in charge of patrol, detective division, and they're going to help with the search and rescue. And in addition to that, I'm going to tag another responsibility for them. It's going to be grant writing. Thank you.
All right, just stay standing, but you guys
Okay.
can clap. And this one was for candidate Spodek, but he's not here. I'm going to bend it towards you, but make the statement anyway. One of the last forums, Spodek stated that he can't constantly go after his guys or they won't want to work for him. Question is, how do you handle complaints from members of the community when a complaint is about a deputy or somebody working underneath the sheriff's department? And what is the process to go through to investigate and make a decision about what to do about that complaint? Thanks.
Legit question, all right? Currently, I can tell you, when somebody tells me they don't want to go after their employees, there's something wrong with it. And I'm not saying that I'm going to go after every employee, but we're going to have a policy where we receive our complaints from the public. They're going to be going through certain steps, those complaints. It's going to be, first step's going to be supervisory inquiry. That's how we do it on the other side. Supervisory inquiry means the direct supervisor or sergeant will take the complaint. Guess what we have on us all the time? Body-worn cameras. If there's no body-worn camera footage when we interact with the public, then we have an issue. Senate Bill 217 addresses that issue. It says we have to record every interaction with the public that's in a criminal nature or may turn into criminal nature. So supervisory inquiry is going to be done by the first line supervision. They're going to put it on the paper, their findings and everything else. And if need may rise, we need to go to the internal investigation. Internal investigation is done by the commander or even sheriff himself, where we're going to put the facts together and then interview that person. And I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, if you're familiar when you interview the cops, we have what we call a Garrity. Any cops here? Garrity is designed for the administration to go and talk to the employee, specifically in law enforcement field, to say, we're giving you opportunity here to come clean. Tell us what happens. We cannot use it against you in a criminal case, but we need to know what happens. So if they decline Garrity, then they don't work for that office anymore. It's designed to protect the organization and the employee. So my job as your sheriff is to protect the organization and be transparent towards our community. I will post finding of supervisory inquiries or internal investigation online. I will create a portal online. They will track number of complaints, and they will track our investigation and as well finding of our investigation. And from there, we're gonna contact County Human Resource Department and ask for their guidance and ask for their help to make to determine final decision for that employees. We have to hold ourselves to the highest ethical, moral standards and professional standards there is. Unfortunately, we are cops, we carry guns, and we are here to enforce the laws. If we bend the laws, and if you're doing something illegal, you shall be held accountable for it. And I can tell you, I'm a firm believer that cops should not police cops. So we're gonna bring external investigation, unbiased investigation to determine the right course of investigation. Thank you.
All right, we have one more, and I'm gonna kind of merge these two questions together. I did have somebody contact me and said they couldn't be here today, but they emailed me a question, and I told them that I would ask it. And I'm gonna merge another question that's similar bent. And this was to Steve, but it's pertinent for what you guys do under the Sheriff's Department. CRS 24-33.5-412.5 requires every Colorado law enforcement agency to submit crime data to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Park County Sheriff's Office has not completed this mandatory reporting for 5 years. As undersheriff, he was personally responsible for the administrative duties of this department. This reporting is an administrative duty. In the last debate, it was claimed that it was a software issue, and it didn't matter because Park County Sheriff's Office did not apply for grants. We'll just leave that there, but tell us about the process and if you must have software and how your department will be handled if you are sheriff.
So the process is pretty simple. The mandate came out in November of 2021. Requires every law enforcement agency in the United States of America to include tribal police to submit what we call it UCRs, Uniform Crime Reporting. It goes to CBI and it goes to on the end goes to the feds. You know, if you go to FBI National Academy, part of your curriculum is about the UCRs. Believe me or not, I know this because I worked for the guy that taught that academy in Quantico, the National Academy. My former chief, he was one of the instructors. So requirements are that you submit your uniform crime reporting on a monthly basis to CBI. And the easiest way to track that, every quarter, CBI sends you a little attaboy plaque that says, "You've done great. You submitted all your UCRs and there's no errors." When I started my police department in Blue River, we didn't have a software, but CBI has an online portal where you can go using your OSN number, so every law enforcement agent, professional, to include our records, get the OSN number from CBI. That's your personal number that lets you log in what we call it Colorado Crime Information Center and National Crime Information Center, CCIC and CIC. So using that portal, you can go through your reports and submit the crime data to state of Colorado. So to say that you don't have a software that works hand in hand with CBI, it's false. You don't need it. So CBI has already given us the portal access. So, in addition to that, why is this important? It's important because when we submit for the grants, usually they're gonna ask you, what is the number of the burglaries you had? What is the number of the DUIs you had? What is the number of domestic violence? And people say, that's a requirement for the grant. You don't get grants because you didn't submit that. And I always joke and say, Park County has defeated a crime. No, I'm being facetious. We didn't defeat the crime, we just didn't report the crime. Thank you.
And we'll let you take a break, and we've got one
I
for
can
Wallace.
still stand.
I'm gonna make a comment that the data is important, because I helped the coroner file for a grant, and they asked for that data, and we had to tell them, didn't have it. So I hope that the grant's still in process, I hope we still get it despite that.
Amy,
So-
Amy, can I make a comment? We've actually got the documentation, if anyone wants to look at it, I know Mary Ann's looking at it now, so she wanted to look at it.
Okay,
We do have the paperwork here, if any of you want to look at it.
all right, we'll go there, you guys can have conversations once we're done with this. I'm gonna try to keep this rolling. And thank you, Mary Ann, I know that you're hot on this, topic.
Yeah, if I could say something later on,
Okay,
I would appreciate it, Madam Chairman.
okay, we'll do that when we, before closing.
Thank you.
For Wally, can you explain why your opponent would want to propose a ballot question with a 1% sales tax, or a ballot question to remove Park County from Tabor, or increase the mill levy, and that would have to be once we're removed under Tabor. The questioner thought that only special districts, or fire and ambulance, et cetera, could ask for increases, so.
Okay, gotcha. Well, the reason she wants to raise taxes is because that's the easy way out. She doesn't want to find the money that's being spent in a way that's improper. Ahmet and I have talked about, finding money in the police area, finding money in the commissioner area. I believe there's money that's spent that could be clawed back and used so that we don't have to raise taxes. So basically, raising a tax, a mill levy, getting rid of Tabor is the easy way out. Now, I don't think she wants to sit down and go through the task, the job. To me, it would be an honor to find a bunch of money that we could find so that we wouldn't have to raise taxes. There are certain spendings that are only allowed to go to certain areas. We have a 6% short-term rental tax. That first 6% goes to the functioning of that short-term rental scenario. There's an additional 6% that can go to fire, police, those kinds of things. So yeah, there are areas that are designated for specific areas, and it's not so easy to just grab the money, put it in a general fund, and apply it to something like roads or something that everybody's pretty excited about. We do have rules that we have to follow through the Golden Dome scenario, the people down in Denver that say you have to use this money in specific areas. So yeah, that is an issue. Thank you.
All right, and this is for all candidates, so Cindy, we'll start with you this time. It's about integrity. Do you think that county employees should be held to the same standards? I would say county employees and elected officials should be held to the same standards as residents, and why?
I absolutely do, because first and foremost, we are your neighbors, we are a part of Park County. We shouldn't go outside of, or, claim that we can do something because we're elected officials, or if an employee wanted to do something and get special treatment. We might get more knowledge because we work there, and we might have access to more knowledge, but we don't get special privileges just because we work there. We don't get special privileges because we're elected. We are to be your servants. We're supposed to be doing things and being the leader. And a good leader, does the very thing that needs to be done that all of you need to do. We need to follow all those rules. We pay the permit fees just like you do. we don't get any special treatment, or we shouldn't. That is just not the way it should be run. I believe in integrity, I believe in ethics and being truthful. I have to take an ethics class for being a realtor. I mean, those are things that I have to follow just being a realtor, but I mean, that's who I am personally. I believe in Jesus Christ, and my faith in Him tells me that that's what I need to do. I need to be honest and truthful and do exactly what you guys do too. Thank you.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow. Absolutely, positively, everything that Cindy, who is my wife, said. And I even think we have a greater duty than the general public. We're sitting up here, standing up here, telling you guys how to act, what you have to do, what you can do, what you can't do. There's absolutely no reason for us not to do that on steroids, even one cut above, you know? It's just who we are. You know, I remember reading a story back in junior high school about back in George Washington's time. There was a sergeant trying to help a corporal do something, and they couldn't figure it out. Along comes this guy on a horse. He gets off. He tells the sergeant back away, tells the corporal back away. He does the job that needs to be done. I don't remember what it was, but that's not important. He gets back on his horse and rides off, and the corporal says to the sergeant, "Who was that?" "Well, that was General Washington. He got off his horse and did the job because those two gentlemen couldn't figure it out." That's what we got to do if that's what we have to do. Thank you.
This is really good questions for law enforcement. If you heard me say, I believe that we, as a law enforcement, need to have highest moral, ethical, and professional standards. Integrity is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, let's face this. As a law enforcement officers, I can tell you, if you've been in this field for a long time, you already know you're never gonna get rich. You do this out of love. And like I said, this is the best job. What we need to do is to follow criminal procedures, which are very important to prosecute criminals, and to do what we are here to do, protect our victims. Nobody in this county should be having anxiety to dial 911 and have anxiety. Who's going to show up and what are you going to do? As your new sheriff, I would hold myself to the highest of those standards. And I would expect nothing less from any deputy that works for that organization. We need to make sure that our procedural justice is done the right way. When I say procedural justice, you know, most law enforcement agencies, they have a value statements. And usually goes like police others, they want to be policed. I'm going to take the next step on that ladder and say, police others the way they want to be policed. Because my take on policing and how I would like it, it's different than yours or yours or yours. So we need to have that accountability from the sheriff's office, and we need to hold everybody to the highest ethical, moral, and professional standards. Thank you.
We have another one for you, Ahmet. How would you deal with a death threat to a county department that was left twice on voicemail and the caller identified themselves as sheriff?
So it wouldn't be nothing different than providing, you know, public safety for the entire community. Yeah, those are the county employees, and they have rights, just like everybody else in this room has rights. So how we will handle it, it's nothing different than what we're doing it right now. I will provide physical security for outside the building. That will be my first step. And inside the building means the deputy is going to be there. In addition to that, I will start full-blown investigation, which means we're gonna trace the phone, we're gonna locate the subject, because at this point in time, they're not suspects, and we're gonna follow the criminal procedures, making sure that we have all the facts that would support probable cause for either search warrant or arrest. So that operations, I can tell you, we get school threats in Summit County almost on a weekly basis. We involved everybody, not only our sheriff's office, but other municipalities and local agency. It goes to CBI, and then we involve the feds, FBI. That threats are taken serious. People are saying, well, most of them are not legit. But guess what? We cannot take that chance. We need to provide public safety for everyone. So that's the simple course of investigation. Providing fiscal security, starting an investigation, and involve our state and federal partners. But we're not gonna close our eye on it, because every threat, it's a legit threat unless we prove it otherwise. Okay, thank you. Again,
One more. Got a whole stack of them for you.
yes.
And this was, if we had two candidates here, so I'm gonna kind of spin it to let you comment on this. How has the sheriff's office utilized the deputies in the jail since it has been closed since December? The questioner has heard that they are extremely bored, but how would you have handled it? And if you had extra deputies, how would you deal with it?
Well, all those deputies, they might not be post-certified police officer standard training. That's what makes difference between patrol deputy and the detention deputy. So we are all post-certified law enforcement officers. We usually work the road, and we have a patrols. That's same for the municipality or sheriff's office. Jail deputies or detention deputies, they're sworn in by sheriff, and while they are working their regular shifts, they have a power given to them by sheriff. How would I address that? If you listen to one of my first debates, at that time we were 3 candidates. Pretty simple. We need to utilize those people. We need to have them working. So you're still gonna need a couple of deputies in the jail, because you still have to intake people who are arrested. So you have to have an intake and processing, and where they go after that, we all know now they go to Chaffey County. But the rest of them, ladies and gentlemen, we have development services, we have court cases in Park County. So I will pair them up with the development services code enforcement officers to go out and help development services. In addition to that, you know what I believe in? All those specialty units that we had in law enforcement, like a SWAT, special response team or whatever, by now we learn, by the time we assemble those specially trained deputies, the situation is already over. It takes a couple hours to assemble SWAT team if they're not full-time SWAT team. So my take on that is strength in numbers. What I believe in is pairing those deputies from the jail with a patrol deputy. So we have what I call it, force multiplier. So instead of 1 deputy responding, you have 2 deputies responding. And it would be beneficial to detention deputies, because it would expose them to patrol operations. If they decide next day to go to patrol, at least they know what they're looking at. And we should recruit from within. Okay, thank you.
All right. One more. What is your opinion of flock cameras and flocking?
So we've seen the controversy with flock cameras. We do have flock cameras. Summit County received, I think, $500,000 grant from the state of Colorado to install 200 or something cameras throughout the Summit County. So every law enforcement agency, well, specifically Sheriff's Office, has access to it. I can tell you, there's a benefit. You're working shooting, burglary, felony menacing. Everybody knows what felony menacing is. It's where you pull the gun and threaten somebody, you're going to shoot him. So it helped us if we have a description of the car. We don't even need the license plate. It would help us, just based on the description of the car, to locate that vehicle and take proper law enforcement actions. On the other hand, I can tell you this. When I sign into my flock, from the Hoosier Pass to down to Breckenridge, I get about 5 to 10 hits on the license plates, and it says misdemeanor arrest, attempt to locate, stolen plate. If you have a well-trained officers or deputy, they will sign into their CCIC, CBI, and they will run the plate, and it says, oh, the plate was stolen 3 years ago and was recovered. They just forgot to take it out of the system. Or misdemeanor warrant or felony warrant, oh, it's out of the state and it's not extraditable in the state of Colorado. Relying just on a flock camera without proper investigation, it's catch-22 and will get us in trouble. We still need a reasonable suspicion to pull that car over, okay? If we are pulling cars without a reasonable suspicion and we find out that you don't have a warrant, you don't need to be contacted or your license plate is not stolen, I'm violating your constitutional rights. So we need to be really cautious on it. If we're gonna have a flock cameras, we need to have a strong policy and procedures. Otherwise, I'm not a big fan of it because we violate people's rights. That's why I stand on it. Thank you.
Okay, Wally, what is your knowledge of water matters within the county? So expand on the mention that you did about that and why it's important to Park County to have water knowledge.
Sure. As I mentioned, I'm a member of the Central Colorado Water Conservancy District. We work in conjunction with HASP. We purchase, we covet, we hang on to our water. We don't sell it. We can lease it. We can grant certain number of wells given the amount of water we have on tap, if you will, no pun intended. And in this situation right now, we have granted a few wells, but we're kind of on hold with the ability to grant water, et cetera. Water is a huge factor in the land use regulations. Not only do you need to worry about setbacks and roads and building sizes, you have to have the water available to make all of those decisions, and that's what a commissioner does, is relies on his knowledge of water, working with the different boards in making those decisions to say yay or nay or put on hold situations for water. I do have a little bit of hydrology in my geologic experience, and that's been of a benefit to the water district that I'm a member of, and would be a benefit for Park County for me as commissioner. Thank you.
All right, Ahmed? Have you ever been a training officer, FTO, and how many recruits have you trained? And why is training important?
Wow. So FTO position, field training officer. I call that position informal leader. That's who builds your department. In my career, I can't tell you how many officers or deputies I trained. Whether it was in patrol operations or corresponding units, that's the mental health units that I did. As a chief of police, I was still training people. It's very important to take the academy knowledge. You know, in law enforcement world, we say they go 22 weeks to the academy and they come out of the academy ready to conquer the world. And then you put the uniform on them and you put them in a car and it's like a 1,000-yard stare, like a deer in a headlight. They don't know nothing about equipment. They don't know nothing about the criminal procedures or constitutional rights. U.S. Constitution is 40 hours in a police academy. I just think we need more than 40 hours to understand U.S. Constitution, our supreme law. That's what we need. So that's where the field training comes in place. You know, we have 4 phases of field training program. Phase 1, it's what we call it show and tell. You have a training officer in a driver's seat. They do everything. The recruit observes it. Then they go into phase 2. Phase 2 is more like a 75 to 25. Training officer is still doing 75%. 25% is done by the recruit. And then phase 3 and 4, amps up. The recruits are doing most of the work with the guidance from their field training officers. They go from basic vehicle operations, whether we respond emergent or non-emergent to calls, to handling people on an everyday basis. Basically, we teach them how to talk to people. It's very, very important position in every police department. It's informal leader that's in charge of that. Thank you. I'm gonna keep standing.
All right, sure. I got some new ones, so, all right, I'll just ask this one while I go read the other ones. How would you respond to a county employee being followed home by a car with no lights and it parked blocking their driveway and getting out and pacing in front?
Well, it doesn't matter if they're a county employee or just any resident of this county. How are we gonna respond to it? We're gonna send deputies to that location, okay? I can tell you out of my personal experience, that happened to some people I know, and you need to do full-blown investigations. So the main thing is sending help right away to that location, making sure they do thorough investigation. What is the reason they've been there? Are they intoxicated? I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, if they're driving at night without the headlights, I teach standardized field sobriety testing. I've been teaching that since 2007, and I'm instructor in it. Probability, if you don't have a headlights, are very high that you're intoxicated, whether it's on alcohol, drugs, or something else. So we need to do what we are paid to do. We need to respond to the location. We cannot handle our calls from the phone. That's the first thing that's going to change in this office. You have allegation of the crime, the deputies are going to that location. And if we don't have available deputies, guess who's going to go? My command staff, including myself. Let's face it, I'm not doing this to sit in the office. People who've been around me and who worked around me, they know I can't sit in the office. My job is to be out there. My job is to provide public safety and make sure your constitutional rights are taken care of. My job is to lead my deputies from the front line, not from the back. I'm the first one to go. My wife hates me for it. But I never said, I will never ask my officer or deputy to do something I am not willing to do. That's what makes the difference between myself and my opponent. I don't hide in the office. I understand we have administrative duty, but guess what? We call our cop cars shops. That is my shop. This is where I work in. I have my computer, I have everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate meetings. I want to be out in the public with you. I want to hear your concerns. And that's how we're going to turn the sheriff's office around. Thank you.
All right, this one is for Wally. Wild Horse Reservoir, where is the water coming from? And what will be the impact on farms and ranches in Park County?
Ooh, great question. The water is, excuse me, the water is coming from a pipeline that already exists. It's water that's already owned by Denver.
Aurora.
Aurora. The reservoir that's being drained, that's Denver water. It's going to Cheeseman and then to Chatfield. So it is Aurora's water. It's gonna be piped through, is it the Otero? Have I got that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Otero?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. And that's what's gonna fill it. And we're probably gonna need a hydrologist because of the size of the dam. So that would be potentially another addition to the person in charge that's hired as an employee. Even though I'm not a big fan of hiring a bunch of people for the government, but, so yeah, the water is already, spoken for, and it's gonna be filled with Aurora's water. Did I
Yeah.
hit that?
Farms.
Thank you.
All right, Ahmet, I've got two. If someone close to you in the sheriff's office commits a crime, would you arrest them 100% of the time? Yes or no?
Or is it just yes or no question? Yeah, if they commit a crime and we support the crime with a probable cause, there is no difference whether it's my family member or my friend. Everybody's gonna be treated the same way. But when we do investigation, we have to establish probable cause for the arrest. We have to have a case that's gonna go to our district attorney's office, and that's who is in charge of prosecution. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I and my deputies that work with me, we arrest so many people, it's unbelievable. And then we complete our cases, and then we send it to the district attorney's office. You know how it works when you get arrested here? Unless it's a felony or whatever, you have to be advised within 48 hours. And most of the judiciary districts in the state of Colorado, you go to judge, and most offenses right now are what we call a PR, personal recognizance bond. So chances of you getting out of that jail immediately are about 90%. But when it comes to this question, whether they're my family member, whether they're my friends, they're all gonna be treated the same way. If they commit the crime and we have a probable cause for arrest, we will arrest. So that's why I stand on it. Thank you.
Wally. I'm gonna meld two together. Do you believe, as commissioners, you should have knowledge of the county land use regulations, and should you obey these regs in your personal life? And if not, what should happen to somebody, someone who does not follow land use process?
Well, obviously, land use regulations are the Bible for all of us to follow. If you do it in your private life, it'll happen in your public life.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I bet finished early, sorry. I'm human. Keep
So,
going.
yeah, no problem. So yeah, land use regulations are what we live by. Everything from a driveway setback to a building height. It's how we keep this county moving forward together and keep everything, sort of in the line of what these volunteer people in these boards have set forth for us to follow as commissioners. Should a commissioner follow it? Absolutely. No different than the people we help, you folks, follow the rules and regulations that have to happen. Absolutely no difference. Thanks. Oh, I forgot, what happen if they don't follow them? Well, there's obviously the penalties. If somebody builds a building and they don't have a permit, you know, you take the building down and then you make them go through the scenario all over again so that we can raise them up right and make it happen. I suppose we would take it under consideration as commissioners, but there's gotta be some sort of enforcement, some sort of penalty, a situation that makes everybody in the county feel whole, that somebody didn't try to do something, you know, sneakily, if you will. Thank you. Sneakily?
All right.
is that right?
Sneakily, that's.
Sneakily, yeah.
It's a new word.
Okay, Ahmet, our county's values are built around protecting families, supporting our neighbors, and keeping our community safe. As sheriff, what is your plan to address the ongoing drug problem while still utilizing community outreach?
I'm gonna tell you that question came up now last debate, I think. And what I hate to hear is like you guys never reported that to us. I don't need nobody to report anything to me. I'm gonna be shifting operations from sheriff's office, from reactive to proactive policing. I was fortunate to work undercover down in the metro area, and I can tell you, my opponent says they had 2 K9 units here. Well, K9 units here are good for a couple things. Search and rescue and interdictions on a highway, which means you have to stop the vehicle, they go sniff around, it gives you probable cause, you write warrants, you get the drugs out if there's any. When you talk about the drug problem, and what we're facing here, what I've been hearing, you know, people are telling me 285, be a mountain corridor, we don't have nothing to worry about. Yes, we do. Denver has become major distribution hub for drug trafficking and human trafficking. And ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, the criminals are not dumb. So they usually use I-70 corridor and I-25 corridor. Well, guess who works those corridors? Oh, the law enforcement agency are focused their enforcement now on those 2 corridors. So guess where they're gonna be bringing that stuff to? 285. And when I say 285 doesn't stop in the United States, goes to Mexico. Yeah, it stops in the United States, but the road continues down to Mexico. It's called something different, but it's directly connected to 285. So the drugs are coming here. They're going down to Denver, and they're coming back here, because what do we have on this side? It's Summit County, big resort community. So not everybody coming to Summit County just comes to ski, okay? They have issue with drugs too. And it's coming from here, ladies and gentlemen. So we need to have support from our community. We have to have a proactive deputies who are going out there, identifying the problems and addressing the problem, aka surveillance, building confidential informants, and everything that goes in a good old drug investigations. Thank you.
All right, you brought this up, so I'm just going to piggyback this. In a past debate, the K9 unit success was mentioned and being recognized by the state. Do you know of any K9 accomplishments?
If it comes to this county, I'm not aware. If there was a big seizure with the K9, I bet Flume, Channel 7 News, or somebody else would be covering that, and it would be all over the social media. I managed one of our K9 units when I worked in Frisco. You know what we focus on? Building a network, which means we have to build a network with our state and federal partners. Most of our seizures came out of I-70. And I'm talking about the kilos. I'm not talking personal use and, you know, a couple grams, a couple ounces. I'm talking about a kilo. I think our biggest one was a 9 kilo of cocaine in Frisco. But guess what? Guess how we got there? We built a network. We reached out and told them, we are available 24/7, whatever you guys get. and they will call you. We've been monitoring this car from the border of Mexico. They're going to Denver. You know how it works. If they're going towards Denver, they take drugs there. If they're going away from Denver, large amount of cash. That's how they supply themselves. My K-9 officer was required to complete his training, and I judged him on what seizures we had. Sometimes you can't say nothing about seizures because it's an investigation that's directly tied to the Department of Justice, aka DEA, feds. And sometimes you can go public on it and say, look what we did. But here, I'm seeing those deputies pulling traffic. Ladies and gentlemen, my main goal is to adopt the federal commercial motor vehicle carrier code into our county code. With that being said, we can reach out to our state partner and have a mobile inspection points, aka weigh station, with Dumont. They have a mobile unit, and they're in charge of the commercial motor vehicle inspections. So they will come in, we can bring canines, they can sniff around the trucks, and at least we can say what's coming up through our corridor. Whether it's drug, whether it's human trafficking, that's what we need to focus on. I don't know what Park County does, but you have to have a plan to deploy canine units. You know why? Because they're very, very expensive to maintain. Thank you.
All right, and this is for all the candidates. I have 2 questions left.
Okay.
So, this is for all the candidates, and it's kind of out of left field, but somebody wanted it asked, so I'll ask it. Have you ever been arrested, and do you know if any other candidates that are not here have been arrested? Cindy, we'll start with you. You've been sitting there.
The answer is, no, I've never been arrested. Do I know of other candidates that have been arrested? Yes.
Okay, Wally.
My answer is no and no. I don't know anybody that has been.
All right, my answer to that, I never been arrested. I got speeding tickets. I can tell you in 285. I never threw my badge out there and said, hey, I'm a cop, give me a break. I made a mistake. I paid my ticket, and that's about the most serious offense I've been charged with. When it comes to other candidates, I heard the rumor, but guess what? Unless I have a proof in front of me saying, there's a criminal record, this is what they have on a criminal record, I don't know. And I'm gonna speculate on other people's arrest or no arrest. That's my answer, thank you.
And I've gotten speeding tickets.
Me too.
All right, the last question, and this is for all candidates. And given how nasty this primary has come at times, which politics is a blood sport, I'm sorry to say, if you are not elected in this primary, are you willing to support your opponent to help preserve our conservative Republican values? And will you call them out if they are not supporting Republican values?
I guess I'm gonna go first.
Yeah, go ahead, you're standing.
So, what I'm gonna say, has it been nasty? Yeah, some point in time. Let's face it, this is politics. This is campaigning. Those are debates. We all, at some point in time, are gonna be public figures. So, you become a target. You're not gonna please everybody, I can tell you that. We all become a target. So, am I gonna be judged by a certain group of people? I don't know. If I decided to do this, I was ready to take those cheap shots. That's being a public servant. I take those cheap shots every day. Are they particularly against me? No. They're against what I represent. And those are my values. Rule of law, that's what we stand for. To continue my answer to this question, ladies and gentlemen, 7.5 years from the current administration. What do we have? We can't retain our deputies. Our jail is closed. There's no trust with our community. Am I going to support that? I can tell you right now, no. We need change. And if my opponent is willing to make that change, I will support him. If he's not, I will hold him accountable. I'm very vocal. I speak out. I'm very blunt. That's the difference between my opponent and I. We will preserve our conservative values. Rule of law is one of them. Private property ownership. Your constitutional rights. Foremost, we need to have communication with our community. We need to rebuild the trust with our community. Like I said earlier, nobody here in this county should be afraid to call Sheriff's Office for help. That's where I stand. Thank you.
I'm a conservative. I've been a conservative for 50 years. I voted for a guy by the name of Richard Nixon. I am a little concerned if I'm not elected, will my opponent act in the manner that I would prefer that she act in? If she doesn't, will I say something? Absolutely. She's talking about raising taxes. I don't think that's the answer. You know, she isn't following land use regulations. That's not the answer. But in order to preserve the conservative republic that we have, I'll do everything I can to help her do the right thing should she be elected. Thank you.
Guess that leaves me.
That leaves you.
Question. As far as my opponent and whether I would support her, I don't know who the other opponent would be. And from what I understand, I mean, I feel so bad for the employees that work for her. And if that's a continuation of what she's gonna continue to do in the future, I don't know that I can support what she does. I don't know that I can support her not getting the right education for her employees. I know that she has supported Democrats before, and I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't know how to answer this question. If she's gonna stay a conservative and focus on making this county a better place and assessing properties accurately and doing all the right things, I would definitely support her. But I haven't seen, she hasn't come up and debated with any of us on any of the 7. She's come to most of them and sat there, but she doesn't support even coming up and being part of the debate. And it's just a real hard question for me to answer. I guess ultimately, yes, I would support her, but I would really encourage her to change how she treats her employees and to do things ethically, to do things equitably for you guys, treat all of you guys well when you come into the office. And I would just challenge her that if she wins this, that's my challenge to her, is to change how she's doing things and to make it a better place to work. Thank you.
Now, the last one for you.
Yeah.
It goes a lot faster when we don't have 2 candidates for each question.
Much harder too, because you didn't hear opponents.
Explain what is a constitutional sheriff and how you will be a constitutional sheriff.
So there is a stigma about the constitutional sheriffs. Where I stand on it, I believe in the supreme law of this country, and that's the U.S. Constitution. Everybody says, my opponent is first to point out, that word sheriff is never mentioned in any U.S. Constitution. It's mentioned in the state constitution. Well, state constitution mirrors what? U.S. Constitution. There is a laws that controversial laws that are coming out of Golden Dome. Senate Bill 003, new House Bill 1126, that authorize any peace officer in the state of Colorado right now to go to any gun store or FFL dealer and say, I need to see the list of people who purchased any firearms here. No reasonable suspicion, no probable cause, no warrant. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, search and seizure. So, I was fortunate to attend Colorado State Shooting Association, where they went publicly and filed a lawsuit against our current regime down at a state level. So, constitutional sheriffs, there's controversy. There's a group of sheriffs, they're saying, this is what we're gonna enforce, it's just the Constitution of the United States and nothing else. Well, that's not gonna work, I can tell you that. But can you be a sheriff, enforce the state law, and still making sure that your constitutional rights are not violated? Yes, you can. Sound judgment is what we need. And with the new House Bill 1126, they said, oh, now we can go as a cops and pull out all those informations that we want. Just because we can, doesn't mean we should. I'm still, when elected your sheriff, if we have issue and we're investigating something with the firearms dealers, we're still gonna go proper route. We will write a warrant, we will secure the warrant, and that's the only way we're gonna get information from somebody who is selling firearms. Thank you.
All right, unless anyone else has a question
Very
that
good.
can ask, and the request is, ask the question, but we're not gonna have dialogue, because that just can get really messy. So please answer,
Yeah, I have
ask.
a yes or no question for Wally. Are you gonna be quitting your position on the Central Colorado Water Conservancy Board if you're elected commissioner?
I'm sorry, am I gonna,
Quit your position on the Central Colorado Water Conservancy Board. Are you gonna quit that position if you're elected commissioner?
I didn't have any intent to do that. I think it's something that I could do in conjunction with being commissioner. I don't know.
How
Yeah.
often do you meet?
Do you see any issue?
Yes, I do see it.
Any conflict?
Yeah, I think it's a conflict personally. Yeah, but I suppose I haven't researched it, but
Okay,
just
Okay.
wanted to know.
sure.
Thank you. All right, we'll ask one more here.
I have a question for Annette. You've mentioned having experience with the mental health corresponder team over in Summit. Can you speak to the role that a sheriff's office would play in supporting mental health needs in the county from a public safety and service standpoint?
Absolutely, that's one of the pillars of my campaign. It's mental health. So what we need to understand lately, since COVID, law enforcement calls for service, I can tell you, over 90% involve some kind of mental health nexus or substance abuse. We've seen over and over that people that we're putting in a jail are repeated offenders. So, as a sheriff's office, what can we provide to break that recidivism, to lower our numbers of repeated offenders? Because, let's face it, over and over taking somebody to the jail costs us money. But providing some solution through the mental health provider, state of Colorado is big now on funding corresponding units. Corresponding units, it's usually licensed therapist with a plainclothes deputy, unmarked vehicles, so when they go to people's homes, they don't have marked units and your neighbor is going like, oh, they're in trouble again. It's a mental health. It's a serious problem. So how are we gonna address that? Corresponding unit, jails, recidivism, key word here, recidivism. What are we providing to those people who are having addiction issue, mental health issue? We can have local partners like Nola Knudsen. Everybody knows Nola here? She's been already working with Sheriff's Office. So as a sheriff, I will be doing everything to implement our local resources, local providers to the Sheriff's Office so we can apply for the grants together. Summit County already has a program that's been funded 100% by the grant since 2019. So it doesn't cost you taxpayer a penny. And we've seen decline in the recidivism, we've seen the decline in repeated offender, and we are not exposing our deputies to the mental health situation where they might face to shoot somebody, innocent people, just because of the mental health, or to be shot by those people. We need to de-escalate versus escalate the situation. Thank you.
Mary Ann, we'll give you a few minutes.
Thank you. I'll need about an hour. I tried to ask a question about the UCR code to candidate Steve. And then I had submitted a question for last week, but I never got a full answer. So I don't know if I should ask on it, but because this pertains to the sheriff's office as it is now. And why it's important to me is because I worked in 2 police departments in Illinois. I worked in Aurora PD, and I have worked in Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. And part of this Bureau of Investigation is things that I have done with the UCR codes. It's disturbing to me that for 5 years, we have had no input, no connection with CBI to put this in for, which I didn't know we could get grants. That was something I just learned. So my question is, who was in charge of taking care of these duties? Why? The answer I got was something with the records, the computers. When I did this 30 years ago, we didn't have computers. And I was able to do that. Just like with Colorado, it was monthly. And it may have taken me longer, but I did it. And in each one of those departments that I worked in, there were supervisors that either it was a civilian and a sergeant, or it was 2 civilians. In Jefferson County, it was 2 civilians. Where I mainly did it was my first police department, which was a smaller department as Ahmet had run in Blue River. So this is disturbing to me, what I'm seeing. I would welcome an answer as to why Park County did not have reporting for 5 years. To me, that's unacceptable. And it's a disservice to every single person in this county. And so I'm just at a loss to know why this wasn't, for 5 years, was not taken care of. And all it needed was a phone call to CBI, how can we work this out? And yet it was just thrown away. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just making a statement. I didn't get my answer. Maybe I didn't ask it correctly.
Mary Ann,
It
thank
wasn't
you.
understood.
You asked your question correctly, it was just not, it was avoided. So we'll let Ahmet respond.
What I understand here, Mary Ann, you were asking who is responsible. Well, we listened to my opponent saying he's in charge of everything. records, administration, operations. That's what undersheriff does. He is in charge of that. He's not the one that manually enters this or uses software to enter that. But guess ultimately, when you point the fingers, that's where the buck stops. It's undersheriff. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I told you who my undersheriff's going to be. It's the man standing there, Gary Rhodes. So if we have these issues, you know who I'm going to blame? Ultimately, it's my responsibility, but it was his responsibility as well. So if he's not doing his job, guess what? He's going to pay consequences for it. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't define my leadership based on the certificates that I have received throughout my career. They don't mean much to me. They just expose me to the network of professionals in law enforcement that I can reach out to. I was mentored by some great men and women in this profession. That is priceless. We go to the classes, we become instructors, and then just based on the certificate, we're going to call ourselves leader. Leadership starts from the top. If I'm holding myself accountable and every member of my organization or my administration accountable to it, I call that successful, effective leadership. That's what we need to do. When it comes to that, Mary Ann, it is the responsibility of undersheriff. I watch our undersheriff, current undersheriff, who I work for. He's in charge of grants. He's in charge of administration. He's in charge of payroll. He's in charge of purchase agreements. And that guy works his butt off. And I do appreciate that. Because if he asks me to do something, I cannot look at him and say, well, you're not doing nothing and I'm not willing to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's leadership. That's accountability. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to go to closing remarks. So, we'll start with Cindy, and we'll go that way, let Ahmed catch his breath. So, thank you everyone, it's been a really good conversation.
So, I have 3 reasons that I want to be the next county assessor. My biggest reason is I want those employees to be trained, to be happy, to want to come to work, and to do a good job for this county, so that they can be there and answer every one of your questions when you come in. And if they can't, at least I train them to figure out where to go next, and if it's to come to me, that's fine. But I want them to be able to do all that work. I want them to get their appraisal licenses that are required by the state. I want to stop the bleed of our funds going to contractors, and to be utilized, use that money within our department. And if we have extra money, the BOCC can figure out where to put that. But I would need our department to be a good, healthy department, emotionally and financially, and be able to help you guys. I want to be there for people, especially seniors. And I have a 94-year-old mother. I understand how difficult it is for her to understand the bill that she gets from her state and what she has to pay, and doesn't understand any of that. So I'm particularly concerned about our seniors and people that, it doesn't have to be a senior, it can be somebody who just doesn't understand. I want them to understand how those taxes work. I don't charge the taxes, I just assess the value, but I can help with those and help you do your appeal process. And I want to be there for the county in that aspect as well. And thirdly, I want to treat everybody with respect and dignity. Everybody here deserves that. You know, you deserve somebody who doesn't speak down to you or doesn't provide you the information you need. And I want to do whatever it takes to make the department the best place for you to come and not be scared to come. I've heard people are scared to go there. And I want to make the computer system easy for you to understand. I've had difficulty trying to figure out how my taxes are working on the system. So if I've had difficulty, I'm sure it's not easy to figure it out for anybody else either. So I wanna make it as, easy for you guys to, figure out how your taxes are assessed and your property value. And if you have, an appeal because your property value doesn't seem to match somebody else's and you find that out, we need to work that out. It needs to be fairly straightforward across the board. I mean, there's going to be differences. You know, one house is going to be assessed differently than another house. Your land, how much land you have, but I want it to be easy for you to understand. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to serve you as your next county assessor. Thank you.
So 250 years ago, we had a bunch of guys that got together and said, I'm gonna start this country. And it's the best country that's ever been around. Where else would you rather be? My father raised me at some point in my life to leave the private sector, go to the public sector just like our forefathers did, and give back to the community. And that's exactly what I want to do. I think I have the acumen, I think I have the, the knowledge, the schooling to make it happen, and the desire to help everybody understand why we do things the way we do at the county level. The land use regulations that we have, all the boards that we have, a tourism board, an environmental board, all of these things are important to the volunteers that join these boards and want to help our county, help our community progress at the right speed, in the right fashion, according to how we want to live up here. And this is an awesome place to live. This is the best county in the best state in the best country in the world, and I'm just honored to be a part of that. Thank you very much.
Well, this was a long trip. Since November, we've been working on this campaign. I hope you got your answers from me. If you have any additional, I'll be around here. Come and talk to me. I hope you've seen what energy level I bring to this organization. If you want a status quo, don't vote for me. If you want to change from day one, because I'm well versed in police administration, I know how to run operations, and I'm not afraid to put that uniform on and cover the road when I need to. We do work for you. This is not going to be my office. The sheriff's office is your office. You have the ultimate saying in how we're going to operate. Because, ladies and gentlemen, trust is a key word here. We need to rebuild it. We need to listen to our community. That's the only way that we're going to be successful as a sheriff's office. Unique for the sheriff's office. We're in charge of your public safety and protecting your constitutional rights. When I go to call, I can't ask people, hey, are you unaffiliated, Republican, or Democrat? I'm here to protect everybody. And I'm going to tell you that nobody here should be afraid to call for help. That's what we stand for. 7.5 years of the current administration. We all heard at the beginning of our debates, my opponent says, we don't have any issue. At the very last debate, he said, we do have issue. I accomplished my goal. I opened their eyes. They were against the grants. Now they're asking for the grant writers. I don't need grant writers. I wrote grants before. And the nice thing about writing grants, they're administered by somebody. You can always call that person and say, hey, I'm stuck. Can you help me through this? And they will help you. UCR reporting, uniform crimes reporting. Big administration failure. Big failure. We need to be transparent to our community. We need to let community know what's going on. How much crime do we have? Because let's face it, everybody's on social media, everybody looks at the stats, And that's how we determine our opinions. In addition to this, we need to hold people accountable, people working for the sheriff's office. I am not here to fire anybody from that sheriff's office, but I'm here to hold them to the highest standards. And the perfect way to do that is you lead from the front. You set the example, and that's how your office will follow you. I'm Ahmed Sisek. I'm asking for your vote in the primary, June 30th. I am the change. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, everybody, and Ahmet did answer the question. Tuesday the 30th is election day. Ballot drop boxes are available now. Everybody's probably received their ballot because they were mailed 2 weeks ago. So civic responsibility is voting, and have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.